You know, Brian, I've mentioned pretty often about this season that the church is in right now and how it began during COVID, right before Pentecost Sunday, when I felt the Lord tell me to call the church together for prayer for 12 nights in a row. You and I were having lunch recently, and that came up, and you mentioned to me you were here every single night.
I was. It was sort of weird. We're meeting in our cars in the parking lot, and then a couple of weeks later, we're having 12 nights church in a row. But you knew something was going on during that 12 nights, and something was happening. Honestly, and I hate to say this to my pastor, but I probably never planned to go to all 12 nights. I probably planned to go to a number of them. But as the services began, you knew something was happening, and afterwards you began to realize that it was the hand of God moving on this church. But it wasn't the hand of God in a heavy way, it was the hand of God in a gentle way, challenging us to press in, to chase after God in a different way.
Well, a lot of the folks in the church wouldn't, they would only know that as a story, because there are so many, hundreds and hundreds of people that are new since that time. How would you describe that journey from Pentecost 2020 to where we are today?
And one of the biggest things that I noticed through this period was that worship got better and better and better, which obviously sets the whole service up for the preaching of the word, the truth to come out, and the moving of God. We had a worship service that worship went on and on and on, and the Spirit of God got bigger during the service, and we never had preaching that day, but we surely saw God move. And I think that was one of the turning points for me, where I realized that how we were pressing in during those 12 days, here comes the harvest.
You know, the other thing is you almost never miss prayer meeting.
I try my best. That is my renewing, that's my strength, it's my need to be in the house of God, to worship and be strengthened by that. So that's how I do it. I try to plan my schedule around it. It doesn't always work that way, but I work hard to be here because I need that renewing. And I think it's important for me as an individual, my walk with Christ, but also we're seeing the church grow. In fact, a couple of weeks ago on the Wednesday night where you sent out the newsletter, the place was as full as Sunday morning.
So we're here at Cornerstone. We have painted a picture that in the middle of all the evil that we see, this campus can become a community center that will stand for wholeness in every kind of ministry, from the arts and theater and concerts to actual movie theaters and all of the other kinds of events and things. And the center of that is this new auditorium that will enable us to handle many more. How do you feel about that?
I think it's a great situation for us to grow in. And I'm excited about it, where it's going to lead and what it's going to do, and the growth of the church. I'm also excited about the aspects of what this is going to bring to families. I have a daughter and grandkids, and I believe that having opportunities in this community to have Christian movies and things like that is something that is not affordable to them, is not available to them. So as we do things like that, I think it's going to be great for the community, and I think we're going to see amazing things happen at Grace.
What do you feel the future looks like for Grace Woodlands?
This is my church, and you're my pastor, and I so respect that and appreciate what we offer at this church. And I know for a fact that this is where I'm supposed to be. I'm not supposed to be in another church. God has me here. For whatever purpose, for whatever He wants me to do, to be obedient to that, but also to continue to invite people and change people's lives and know that our church can make a difference in the lives of people around us. And I see that all the time, that our church is an impacting church of the community that we live in.
What would you say to people who they're approaching their commitment. They're seeking the Lord. They're asking God for the amount. They're listening for the voice of the Spirit, and there is that word called faith, to believe for what you don't have yet, taking that step. What would you say to folks that are there? Because you actually took that when the Lord said to you, here's the amount you're supposed to give now. It's not based on a percent. Now we're moving you into this realm.
I would say that the biggest factor is that your faith walk has to be much more than just giving to start with. Your faith walk has to happen where you work, where you play, where you hang out at, and that your faith comes out no matter where you're at. Our environment at our office is very friendly to the gospel, and I will not go to lunch with anybody, even in the business environment, without saying, do you mind if I bless the food? And that's a challenge that I have sometimes because they're not always believers. So your faith walk has to happen 24/7. When that begins to happen, and not that any of us are perfect or understand all the struggles we face, but when our faith walk gets to the place where we're living it every day, then hearing that voice of God and a number or an amount becomes a lot easier because we're more in tune with what He has to say to us.